mariachis cantar con el alma sus lindas canciones. Oír cómo suenan esos guitarrones y echarme un tequila con los valentones.
We're going to begin a working part of this meeting today, but before I do that, I want to introduce you because I think it's important for you students to get to know some of our guests today. When I graduated from high school in 1981, it was a long time ago, and I went to school in Washington, D.C. at Georgetown University. When I went to college there, and I remember thinking, someday I'd like to go to Congress, but then I went to law school, and I liked practicing law so much that I never thought about it again. So for 22 years, I practiced law. And then when they created this new congressional district, a friend of mine called me. He says, you know, you ought to think about running for Congress. I said, no, I thought about that a long time ago. Woke up the next morning. I decided I wanted to run for Congress. And in January, I started my first term as a member of the House of Representatives. One of the things about going to college in Washington and now being a member of Congress is that I've got to meet great friends. And today I have two members of Congress, Congresswoman Kyrsten Sinema from Arizona, and we have one of our senior members of Congress, Joe Crowley. He's from Queens, New York. And so what I'd like to do, because I think it's important for you to hear about their stories, because they come from different parts of the country. We all have very different backgrounds, and they have different stories to tell, and I think it'd be important for you guys to hear from them.
First, I just want to say thank you all so much for hosting Mr. Crowley and myself with all of you this morning. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. I currently represent the Phoenix and Tempe area in Arizona, but I was born and raised in Tucson, Arizona. And when I was a kid, in public school, I found really my path to success through public education. As a young child in Tucson, my family hit tough times during a recession in the early 1980s. And I was actually homeless for several years. My family lived in an abandoned gas station with no running water and no electricity. And those were really tough times for my family. But we never missed a day of school. And the reason we never missed a day of school is that my parents had taught me that if I got a good education, that I could become anything I wanted to in this country. And I think that story is the story of the American dream, which has clearly been true for me. So later, when my family got back on our feet, I was lucky enough to finish school. I had great teachers. And I was lucky enough to get a Pell Grant to go to college, which is funding that helps folks who don't have a lot of money get access to go to college. And I'd also worked pretty hard in school, so I got a scholarship, an academic scholarship to go to college. And like Philemon, I later became an attorney and practiced law in my community. And after several years of being an attorney, I also served as a social worker in an elementary school for about 10 years, helping kids and families who had struggled financially like my family did when I was little. And I ultimately ran for the state legislature in Arizona. If you know anything about the Arizona state legislature, you know they needed a lot of help. So I went to the state legislature to fight for the families that were struggling, families that were working hard, but trying to make it and having a tough time in my state. And after doing that for nearly 10 years, I ran for Congress. First person in my family ever to hold political office. And now serve in Congress, I've been there for just 8 months, like Philemon. And I'm working hard to make sure that all the kids in my community, no matter where they come from, where they were born, or how much money their family has, that they all have the same shot at a good education in the American dream. So it's an honor and a privilege to be with you today. Thank you for your commitment to public education and to children. And for all of our mariachi students, you guys are tremendous. So muchas gracias. Thank you.
Good morning. As you can probably tell already, that Congresswoman Sinema is a tough act to follow. But I'm Congressman Joe Crowley. I represent the 14th Congressional District, which takes in parts of Queens and the Bronx, for those of you familiar with New York. Is anyone here a tennis fan? Anyone watching tennis right now? well, then when you're watching the television, you're watching tennis, you're looking at part of my district. I represent Flushing Meadows, Corona Park, where the U.S. Open is played and where the Mets play, the New York Mets. If anyone ever heard of them, I know New York Yankees take up a lot of oxygen, but we have the Mets as well. 70% of my district is in Queens, 30% is in the Bronx, and I'm in my 15th year in Congress, and I'm the senior member here at 51 years of age. The gray hair, quite frankly, I'll take any color hair right now as long as it stays on my head. I'm on the Ways and Means Committee in the House. I am also the fifth ranking member of the Democratic leadership in the House as the vice chair of the Democratic Caucus. My mom was an immigrant from Ireland. All four of my grandparents are from Ireland. My grandfather came to the United States in 1912, 101 years ago. That's how long the Crowleys have been in the States. A quick, fun story for us is that when my grandfather came at 14, he was drafted into World War I, and after serving during that time, he became a citizen and got on a motorcycle, bought a motorcycle, and went all throughout the 48 states here at the time, and attempted to go into Canada and was stopped at the border because he had an Irish accent, and they asked him for his passport. He said, I don't need a passport to go into Canada. He said, well, you do. You have an Irish accent. He turned his motorcycle around and he said to the gentleman, to be an American is to be a king. Now, for those of you who live here, you've been here a lot longer than 100 years. Your families go back generations and generations. And I think oftentimes wonder whether or not you feel like you're Americans. And the one thing I have an appreciation for is that we're all Americans in different ways, different shapes, and different forms. And you lay claim to that probably more so than I can at this point in time. So immigration is an issue of a passion for me, immigration reform, and doing it in a smart way that makes sense for America and for our neighbors as well. So I'm very pleased to be here today to talk about education, talk about anything you want to talk about, but particularly because I'm here to be here for my friend Phil. Philemon is someone whom I've gotten to know for a brief period, but we immediately connected and we become fast friends. So I'm very, very pleased to be here today to see how things are down here in Texas and to let you know that we're not all that different up in Queens, New York. I just want you to know we're a lot alike. And for instance, I'm a lover of music. So I play music. I was a musician growing up, and I think this is wonderful. The richness of the culture that you're giving to your young people is a gift not only to them, but to all of us in this country, to keep this alive. I'm a great fan of river dance because it's something I take pride in for my own heritage, and I really appreciate hearing mariachi music and hearing this richness in culture that you're keeping alive, again, not only for yourselves, for the entire country. It's fabulous, fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you again, Congressman Crowley and Congressman Sinema, for joining us in South Texas. And to you students, again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I know you've taken time out of your busy classroom schedule, and we thank you. I want to introduce our four superintendents, and then I'll let Dr. Alejandro take it from there. We have Dr. Ruben Alejandro from Weslaco Independent School District, our host today. Dr. Daniel King from FAR San Juan Alamo. Dr. Fernando Castillo from Progreso Independent School District. And Roberto Loredo from Donna Independent School District. But thank you all very much for being here.
Let me begin by welcoming everybody to today's meeting, and it's truly a pleasure to have the opportunity to share with our visiting congressmen and congresswomen about what is unique to our valley. Congressman Crowley, I can definitely relate to what you were talking about because I suffer the same problem. So, and it became a little bit more evident when Congressman Vela said he graduated in '91. Said 91. when I graduated, it was so long ago, I think they were still taking wagon trains across the country. But, okay, well, okay, so then we were in a steam engine train trying to get across the country. And Congresswoman Sinema, it was truly inspiring to know that you can relate to what a lot of our challenges are in the Valley in terms of, how you had to struggle in order to be the success story that you have become. And that's what we want to do. Our students here in the Rio Grande Valley are all success stories that are waiting to be published. And that is what we, in every single district, that is what we strive to accomplish every single day. The Valley is continuing to grow very, very rapidly. And what I tell my staff is that we are in the 21st century. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we empower every single student to be a success story and to be able to meet the challenges of the 21st century. Unfortunately, because of budget cuts and unique circumstances in our Valley, a lot of times a lot of the conditions force us to be in the 20th century. So we have a lot of catching up to do. So what we decided last year when I first became superintendent is that we wanted to get together and try to revolutionize instruction. So what we did is we came up with a vision. In our vision, we were targeting those kind of skills that our students are going to need in order to be successful in life. Because the way we see it is that we want every single student that comes through our district to be successful for their entire life until the day they decide to retire. That is our goal, plain and simple. No ifs, ands, or buts, and no excuses. We want every single one of them to be a success story. So we want to give them the skills. Along with the content, we want to give them the skills that will help them to be that success story. And obviously, communication skills is going to be very important, both oral and written. And we want to make sure that they're problem solvers and critical thinkers, because that's what they're going to need to do in order to continue to meet the challenges of a changing world. And of course, we want them to be highly adaptable, because we don't have the luxury of sending them back to training once a business or industry closes. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that they have the skills already that they can adapt, and quickly within a week or a month of some industry or job closing down, that they can quickly go into something else and be highly successful, continue to be highly successful. So those are the kind of things that the challenges that we're faced with, because we're preparing children, we're preparing students for careers and a future that's uncertain. Careers that don't exist, a future that's uncertain, and yet we need to prepare them to be successful in that future. So we are constantly trying to find ways to do that. We started with, of course, the whole child, and Congresswoman Sinema, you can relate to this. This year, we said, we need to approach it in the sense that we want to take a look at the whole child, because if we can address all the needs of these children, then they're ready to learn. So when we get them in school, we can help them to be the success story that they were destined to be. But if they're not ready to learn, then we can't instruct them. All the instruction, all the great teachers in the world are not going to make a difference because they're not ready to learn. They have other things more pressing. They're hungry. Sometimes they don't have a home to go to. And sometimes if they do have a home, they're so dysfunctional because of all the barriers that they are confronted with. So we want to make sure that we address the whole child, because we believe that if we address the whole child and they're ready to learn, they're going to go out and become our future leaders, and they're going to change the world. And pretty soon, the universe will be their playground, and that's what we want to do. We have a lot of challenges. How do we prepare students for jobs that don't exist, that we don't know what's happening out there? The future, again, as I mentioned, is uncertain, but we need to remain globally competitive, and we need to make sure that we have our students prepared to go out into the real world, okay, and be highly competitive. Not only in the Valley, not only in the state of Texas, not only in the United States, but worldwide, because those are the kind of students that we're going to have. The resources that we need to meet the demands of our students is, as I mentioned earlier, we need to give them skills that will help them to be highly successful. They need to be independent thinkers, innovators. They need to be able to invent, critical thinkers, reasoning, and they need to be able to collaborate. Most of your think tanks is just that, a collaboration of the brain power in an organization that help combine and get together to come up with new and innovative things. There's a lot of programs that are available. This is just a sampling of them. Mayan, PD360, Powerful Learning, Intel. There's a lot of programs out there. But what we need is we need resources to be able to provide those programs for our students. We have the resources in terms of manpower, the teachers, that we have highly qualified teachers in all of our districts because we work very diligently to do that. But we need to give our teachers the tools that they need in order to continue to make our students successful. And the way we're going to do that is we need to provide professional development. We need to go ahead and give them resources, technology, and other things that they're going to need in order to help our students to be successful. Well, that's where we have some limitations. We don't have all the resources, and we need to make sure that our students have everything at their fingertips to be successful. These are some of the programs that are currently in place. In Westaco, we are using blended learning and flipped classrooms. But again, we need to provide the staff development to help make sure that every single one of our teachers is very well familiar with all of these kind of programs that will help our students to succeed. It's kind of surprising, but when we first started talking about flipped classrooms, some of our staff had the idea, oh, flipped classrooms. Does that mean that you put the desk on the other side of the room? No. Okay, that's not a flipped classroom. Okay, but again, we need to provide the staff development. We need to go ahead and tell them what it is that we need to do. But again, we need to make sure that we get the resources available. Project-based learning, that's where you develop the critical thinking and the problem solving that our students need. Help them to work together. I visited a classroom and the teacher was sitting at her desk and she looked like she was grading papers or something like that. And of course, I walked in and immediately I was kind of upset because she was not in front of the students. She had 3 groups going. As soon as I walked in, she got up and she says, oh, welcome to my class. We're working on this project and we have 3 different groups. And she told me exactly what each group was doing. What was she doing? I realized that instantaneously, she was allowing students to be independent, to be critical thinkers, to be problem solvers. There was one group of students that were on the floor and they had a chart paper and they put their little journals as a barrier between them, and they divided themselves into boys and girls. This is an elementary class, okay, 3rd grade. And what they were doing is they had a problem, they stated their position, and they were defending it. They were defending it. They were in a debate between the girls and the boys, and I was thinking to myself, look at that. And the excitement, they were bouncing off the floor. But again, we did project-based learning, and we want to give them that opportunity to be independent thinkers so that they can go out there and continue to be a success story. We have a lot of things that are happening in the Valley. We've got SpaceX that is currently trying to they're buying land and they're thinking about setting a private launch pad here in South Texas. We've already been approved to have the medical school coming in here. Now what we need to do is we need to get our students ready. We need engineering programs that will help prepare students to go out into that SpaceX program. And engineers is not only the ones that are going to build the rockets, you need the ones that are going to build all the components that help build the site, that help go ahead and prepare the environment, make sure that everything's okay. The medical students, there's a lot of technicians and a lot of other resources that are necessary in order for the medical school to be a reality. And of course, we need students that are able to graduate from our schools here in South Texas and be the ones that are being admitted into the medical school that we have here. So those are the kind of challenges that we have and that we need to be prepared for. But again, we need additional resources that can help us to do that. Just a few demographics about our district. We have approximately 18,000 students, 17,461. Out of those, we are 98% Hispanic. We are 83% economically disadvantaged, and we are 21% ELL. All of these are barriers to our students' success. And you know what? Some of our kids fall into 1, 2, and some even into 3 of those categories. So think about that. That means that some of our students don't have only 1 barrier, they have 2 and 3 barriers to overcome.
The ELL number seems low. Are many of your students multi-generational families that have been here for much time?
Right. Yes, a lot of them are multi-generation. They've been here, but one of the problems that we have is that we have a lot of fluidity because we're the proximity to the border. Okay, so some of them these are the numbers that we actually have based on our PEIMS information, but some of those numbers aren't necessarily concrete in the sense that because of that, some of those students get lost in the mix.
Are those statistics that we see at the other 3 districts?
It's very different from where I come from. In Arizona, our ELA numbers are much, much higher because the traffic back and forth across the border is so constant and so fluid. So I'm surprised by that.
Right. Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because you also have the same fluidity and the proximity, but yet the numbers are a little bit different in the sense of, where our students get lost. We have that problem in the sense that sometimes we're looking for kids and we can't find them because we have false addresses and things like that. So there's a lot of fear in the area about being identified because a lot of them think, if somebody finds out that I'm here illegally, they immediately think, well, they're going to deport me or something like that. And that's also something that we're constantly trying to correct because we want accurate information so that we can provide as many services and as we can for our students. Our graduation rate has increased. In 2009, we started off with 800 graduates. It increased to 917 in 10, 11, 1,045, in 12, 1,030. But as you notice, the number of students that have actually enrolled in college is not that significant. We are a little over 50%. And a lot of our students do not enroll in college. And the reason is that a lot of them don't have the opportunity to go ahead and continue to go to school. So those are the kind of barriers that we're doing. When I mentioned the whole child, the whole world, the whole universe, what we're doing there is we're trying to go ahead and start with our students that are going to be our students. We're taking a look at a program where we're going to begin with prenatal and start building our students so that by the time we get them as pre-kindergarten and 4-year-olds, they are ready to learn and they have a background in their vocabulary and their reading ability. So that's a program that we're working on right now that we're going to be implementing. But again, the only reason that we were able to even explore this is because of a company that was willing to set up a pilot with us, and they have been very generous in terms of giving us a very competitive price that we could be able to afford. And the reason that we need to look out for partnerships and we need assistance in helping more private industry and programs to be able to provide partnerships with us is because of the increasing budget cuts. It's kind of interesting, but when the government says you need to educate your children, and we have all these programs or requirements that are needed for you to be able to educate them, and then they turn right around and say, but you know what? We're going to take money away from you. Sequestration costs West WISD $1 million, okay? So that's $1 million less that we have to provide for our students that are in need, Title I funds. So that, of course, was a big, huge barrier for us. The state cut our budget 2 years ago. Now this year they gave us a little bit more money, but it doesn't make up for the loss in 2 years' worth of funding that we got. Okay, so we're in a negative.
What percentage of each of your budgets, not a precise number, but just generally, are federal dollars, Title I and
Title I, we lost, I don't know the percentage, but we lost $1 million. It was 5-point-something percent, 5.7%.
If I'm not mistaken, during our discussions with each of you, I think it's what, 15?
It's about 15%.
15% of our school budgets are
Yes, of our
federal
overall
dollars.
school budget.
Oh, okay, you're talking about...
Yeah, just in general,
In
yeah.
general, overall.
It's about
yes.
15%.
And if I can ask at the state level, I know that your governor certainly instituted some cuts. What percentage of those, what percentage of the cut was affecting education? So obviously if 85% of your budget comes from state and local funding, from property taxes and from state funding, what was that impact of the state cuts on your districts?
Well, the impact was that we lost about 10% of our budget, okay, and on the cuts that we got. Now the money that they allocated this time was about 8% of that money that we lost. But you have to keep in mind that we've lost it for 2 years. So we're actually working at a deficit right now, even though we've got a little bit more money. And then that, together with the increased demands of AYP and the cuts through sequestration, that just adds a lot more burden to us. And that makes it a lot more difficult for us to be able to address the needs of every single child that we have.
Did you all face large cuts in terms of teachers so that your classroom sizes went up? Is that?
Unfortunately,
That was part of it,
Yes.
yes.
Unfortunately, the biggest part of our budget is on salaries and payroll. So the first thing that a lot of districts will do is they start cutting down or trimming down on the amount of staff. And let me give you an analogy. When they say go west, young man, well, do you want that young man to go west in a wagon train and take 6 months to get there? Well, in the 21st century, we need our students to get there in that new jet that they have that can take you across the country in 1 hour. That's the kind of students that we have nowadays that need that kind of progress. But what these cuts do is they actually tell us, go west, young man, and here, get on the wagon train and start heading out there. And we'll still get west. The only problem is, do we want to take 6 months to get there, or do we need to get there now? Well, in the 21st century, we need to get there now because we, as I mentioned earlier, we're already 13 years behind schedule in terms of assisting and helping our kids. And as you saw earlier with this SpaceX, I mean, here is the latest and greatest type of space travel coming into our area. The medical school is going to double our population when this medical school comes in, which is in about 4 years. In about 5 years, it will double our population in the valley. So given that, what's going to happen is, what are we going to do? Are we going to be able to keep up with the demand? Not if we continue to get cuts. Not if we continue to get cuts and they continue to have more strict guidelines for us to follow. So we need to keep pace. And I know that every single district in the valley is really struggling to make ends meet and to try to provide every single opportunity for our students. But again, we're kind of paddling upstream, in terms of trying to do that. This time, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Loredo, Superintendent for Donna ISD.
Good morning. And thank you, Dr. Alejandro, for hosting this forum. Congressman Vela, Congressman Sinema, and Congressman Crowley, certainly an honor to stand before you this morning. Donna Independent School District is, we're all neighbors, Westlaco, Donna, PSJA, and Progreso. And as superintendent of Donna Independent School District, I come from a time back in the 60s when I remember in the 4th grade being in the playground and getting sent to the office and getting 3 swats for speaking Spanish. That was back in the 60s. You can tell how long we have come, and your visit today is a tribute to that because you come here to listen to what we are doing in our school districts, but certainly most importantly, what we feel we need to continue to do the work that we are doing. In Donna Independent School District this year, we are concentrating, we're always talking about the foundation in education. You know, you got to start at pre-K, kinder, the elementary levels, middle school, so that by the time kids get to high school, they're already on the right track to graduation and certainly to take it to the next level to go to college. Well, we're still concentrated in that area at the elementary level, but this year we've taken a different initiative, and I'm not going to read everything, but basically what we're doing, and we haven't come up with a name for it yet because right now we just terminated the Leadership and Career Academy. This year, we're starting an initiative and we're concentrating on our freshman students, okay? Dr. Alejandro mentioned that there will be a medical school that will be opening here in the Rio Grande Valley in the next 4 years. We are concentrating on our freshmen because we want our freshmen to, this year's freshman class will be the first class that will be eligible to apply for that medical school. So we want our students from Donna, from PSJA, from Westlaco, from Progreso, from the Region 1 area to be the first students to apply for that medical school, and not that we get any students from outside the valley. If the medical school is going to be here in the valley, we want it for our own kids. So this year, we want to concentrate on our freshman students to be able to begin to interest them in medical careers. So as such, I talk a little bit here about the vision, mission, population needs. What do we feel we need for our freshman students to be able to continue on that journey? In order to do that, this year we've undertaken this initiative, and I tell you, we're just calling it right now the Leadership and Career Academy, because once we get started with our freshman students, we want them to come up with the name for this initiative. We want them to build ownership, to be able to own this and to be able to take it to the next level. We feel that in that process, we're going to need more personnel. One of you asked a question about how our budgets were cut. In Donna, a couple of years when that happened, we started looking at teachers. And our personnel department, the first group of teachers that we looked at was first-year teachers, because first-year teachers can be let go a little more readily than veteran teachers. But it was devastating. And during our meetings with those teachers, typically the human resource department would be able to take care of that. I took it personally to be able to sit down with the human resource department and myself personally to tell each and every teacher. And that year, it was about 2 years ago, we had about almost 60 to 75 teachers that we had to give a letter to telling them, we will not be able to keep you for next year. And it was devastating to a lot of the teachers. You know, sitting down with them personally, a lot of them cried because it was going to affect their career. So those are the types of issues that we are dealing with. When we just opened up a new high school in our school district. Our new high school is already at 527 freshmen. And this is the 9th day of school, and we have been meeting with the staff. And there are already issues that are going on where if we want this to succeed, we're going to need additional mentors, tutors, licensed professional counselors, community liaisons to be able to work with these students to keep them focused and to keep them to the task so that they may be able to go into the medical career. And the feedback from teachers already is, what about other careers? And certainly, as we have talked as 4 districts, we have talked about collaborating to, for example, be able to open up some sort of medical school type training, let's say in Dana or in Progreso, in PSJ or in Weslaco, so that students from the 4 districts would be able to come to Dana or be able to go to Progreso. Progreso already has some excellent career opportunities there, so does PSJ and Weslaco. So we're talking about collaborating with among the 4 of us so that we're not in competition among all of us. So we're talking about the Leadership and Career Academy. Our demographics, similar to what Weslaco has already presented, and you're probably going to find that it's similar to PSJ and Progreso. You see our demographic data for special ed, for at risk, for LEP, and for economically disadvantaged. You notice our LEP population, 49, so that's high. And I know Congressman Sinema asked about that. So because in Dana, like in Weslaco, we're close to the border, and we also have a bridge that's right across one of our elementary schools. So, you know, we deal with that issue on a daily basis. Part of the initiative that I talked about the medical school, we feel that we need to involve outside agencies, and the meeting this morning is about doing that. You know, you're here to listen to what we're doing and how you can help us take it to the next level. Well, in this case, here you see 2 of our freshman students. They are working with a human simulator that we're going to bring to our district. This human simulator comes from the organization called Encore. Encore is an organization that belongs to the Texas Valley Communities Foundation, and they're going to bring our human simulator to these freshmen that I talked to you about, and we're going to work with them to bring 10 different sessions throughout the year to our freshman students to try and get them motivated into the medical career. Now, what's going to happen, I told you we already have a little over 500 students at Donna North. Those students are going to be divided up into maybe groups of about 25, and there's going to be about, of those 25 groups, each group is going to select 1 freshman representative, and those 25 representatives are going to meet with me every 3 weeks, and I want to monitor how they're doing, and I want to ask them, what is happening? How can we make it better for you? And I want to go in there and talk to them, and not necessarily about what are your teachers doing or not doing, but how can we make it better for you? Well, those 25 students are going to be the ones that are going to be eligible to work with a human simulator. So we already have them working with a human simulator. These are 2 of our freshman students that are currently working with a human simulator, and we're going to bring it to Donna North and to Donna High, but certainly because it's only going to be 25, the need would be, how can we get it to all 500 freshmen versus only 25? The prior slide, you saw 2 of them. Here you see 6 of them. We had 3 from Donna North, 3 freshmen from Donna North, 3 freshmen from Donna High School that went and participated in this activity with a human simulator.
By the way, we should explain to them that the mascot for the Donna High School is the Donna Redskins. And what I've been told is that it's one of the only schools in the nation that has an old copyright deal with the Washington Redskins.
That is correct. That is correct. And I guess just so you know, our new high school is the Donna North Chiefs. So we kept it in the same family. And right, you know, we deal with our population in the school district. This is some of the housing that is available, okay? So you see this little house, what do you think is right behind it? Our brand new Donna North High School. So as we open up Donna North High School, the areas are being populated, but the substandard homes continue to come to our region, okay? Does that matter when the student steps into the classroom? For us, it doesn't, because we like to think that every student is the same. So we don't care where they come from, but we wanted to show you what is happening in our community. And I would venture to say it's happening in all 4 communities. You know, you have progress, and then you have what's happening in the community right beside it. Some of our we found a student last year that he was a 5th grader at one of our elementary school, got into a little situation. The assistant principal and our liaison made a home visit, found that there was a 5th grader, a freshman who was in soccer, and a sophomore, and they were all 3 boys. They lived with their father only, no mother in the home. This is where they lived. And of course, it was, you know, pitiful all over. So we were able to get a group of our district personnel, and we collaborated with United Way, and we were able, the group was able to get him a mobile home on a lot for 1 year. So the father made a commitment to be able to keep that lot for 1 year. So we feel that in spite of where our students come from, they are turned on, they are motivated to learning, and we cannot give up on them. So I show you that just to let you know what we deal with on a daily basis, but we don't turn our backs on our students. This is the continuation of that, the prior slide, and the wording there that says Donna North High School located directly north of the subdivision is the one I showed you a while ago, just to let you know, the progress and then the poverty that still exists in our community. So, on behalf of Donna Independent School District, I thank you for being here, and we certainly wish to continue this dialogue. And now we'll turn it over to Dr. Daniel King from FAR San Juan Alamo.
Good morning, and welcome to the Valley. It's kind of interesting that just as we're getting ready to do this, I don't know if any of you were aware, but yesterday afternoon or evening on my email, I got an email of a report that came out that was put out by the Pew Charitable Trust Foundation, the Pew Hispanic Center. And what they did is they released a very comprehensive report nationwide on the Hispanic population in the United States. And it has all kinds of data. If you love data, you can spend the next year or two going through that data, but it had county by county data, MSA by MSA, state by state, and had all kinds of different fascinating things in there. One of the things that it had in there, and of course we know the changing demographics, so we know the increase in the Hispanic population, but one of the things that had in there had the top 50 MSAs in the United States in terms of Hispanic population. And the MSA that is represented by these school districts, but the Hidalgo County MSA is the 13th in the number of Hispanics, the real number of Hispanics that live there. So you're talking about Los Angeles, Miami, Chicago, New York City, and so forth. Interesting, number 12 was Washington, D.C. But these are huge cities. But even though we're not of that size, the number of Hispanics that we have is right up there in the top of the ranking. Some other interesting data, of course, as always, and as we're familiar with, is that poverty level for this MSA, very, very high, and so forth. But one of the things that I saw there was that that really relates to this report, that it shows that in our MSA, the percent of adults aged 25 and older that have never completed high school is about 38%. 38%. Now, part of that's immigration, right? Part of that is immigration, and that's something that doesn't always get addressed. And then part of that goes back to the times that Mr. Loredo was just talking about, the 60s and the 50s and the 40s, some of the older generation where completing high school was not considered very important, especially often unfortunately in a lot of our schools, the way they were run at that time, not only was Spanish on the playground extinguished, but Hispanics in the schools were kind of extinguished as cohorts went up the grade levels. Hispanics started disappearing, and I grew up, in roughly that same generation, and I remember seeing the cohort size shrink. I didn't think about it at the time, but going back and thinking about it, you remember those things. So 38% of adults in this community, age 25 and older, never completed high school. Only 38%, according to the Pew report, have any kind of post-secondary education at all, even some college hours or whatever. So when you're talking about, as the superintendents have spoke prior to me, the need for 21st century, to be ready for the 21st century, those kind of statistics are not going to do it. So clearly we've got to do some things different to do that. In PSJ, one of the things that we're very committed to, and I think all of us here are committed to, is we understand that in today's world, a high school diploma is not enough. Our young people need a certification, they need a degree, they need something that says that they're a specialist in something, that they're an expert in something. And that's what the private sector is looking for today. The private sector is not looking to train workers very much. They're looking for them to come in and already have certain skills and certain degrees. In PSJ, we kind of state our mission real simply. We call it College Cubed. Our focus is that we want every one of our students to be ready for college. We want to connect them to college before they leave us, and we want them all to complete college. And so we'll be talking about that. And we've been working on transforming our system over the last few years in a very systematic way, in a way to impact every single student. Our school district, we serve about 32,000 students. As far as our demographics, we're about 99% Hispanic, and about 89, almost 90% of our students are economically disadvantaged, and 41% are English language learners. Now, one thing to keep in mind on the English language learning percentage, and notice that you have the state comparison. So we're 98% Hispanic. The school age population in Texas has now flipped to where it is majority Hispanic in the state. It's 51%. Economically disadvantaged, the state 60. ELL, the state 17. But one thing to remember on the Hispanic, or on the ELL numbers, is that's pre-K through 12. Okay, so when you talk about when they're first entering school, we're talking about 75% English language learners. As they go up the grades and they learn enough English and pass their tests, they exit from that category. So that's one of the reasons that number sometimes can also be deceptive sometimes. We've been focused very hard in PSJ in the last few years. A few years ago, when I arrived in PSJ, we did an analysis about 6 years ago, and PSJ's dropout rate was double the state average. We had a really bad dropout problem, and we got to work on that and tackling that. Our dropout rate, like I said, it was more than double the state average. Within 2 to 3 years, we brought that down to about half the state average. Today, our dropout rate is better, much better than the state and better than the region. So we have really attacked that problem already. Our 4-year graduation rate was very, very hard too. It was similar to some of your inner city rates. Our 4-year graduation rate was 62%. And we again dug in and began to work very hard on that. Today, our 4-year graduation rate is 88%. We've gone from way below the state average and way below the regional average to where we're above both the state and the regional average today. This one, I call it our productivity measure, and I like to say we've doubled our profit. Our system was struggling with getting students to graduate from high school, and the number was actually starting to decline as higher exit level tests came in and harder courses were required. Over the last few years now, we've actually doubled from 967 graduates back in 2007 to over 1,900 this past year. So we've made a lot of progress in that area. We've really taken a comprehensive approach to the dropout crisis. We go out and visit. We try to track down every single student that doesn't return to school, try to make sure that we don't lose any of them. Our goal is not, with our dropouts, our goal is not just to get them back into high school, but our goal is for them is for the same as any other student, that they need post-secondary education. And when we visit our dropouts and we start working with them, we work with them on post-secondary education. We really don't focus that much on the high school diploma, and don't misunderstand me. We expect them to get that, but we're focused on them is their future beyond that, because they don't see the importance of the diploma. When we focus on their future and where they can go, then the high school diploma becomes a way to get there. And we use all kinds of strategies. We actually use early college for dropouts. We use dual enrollment in the community college for dropouts. We connected career pathways leading to industry certification, all kinds of partners with different nonprofits, national, state, and local. Jobs for the Future out of Boston, Educate Texas out of Dallas, and local foundations here, Communities Foundation of Texas, the Rio Grande Valley Foundation, and so forth.
When students are doing dual enrollment or early college, they don't pay a fee for the tuition or for the books?
They don't pay anything.
And does the state subsidize that, or do the local colleges?
One area that, it's kind of interesting in Texas, because Texas, and there are a lot of areas Texas lacks in terms of funding and support, but there's two areas that the state does very, very well in, and is actually a national leader in. One is the state of Texas, beginning in 2007, provides funding to bring dropouts back to school up to age 26, and they get full ADA funding. And PSJ was the first in the state to initiate that, really out of a bill that probably wasn't intended to open a school, as we understand now, was intended for like evening tutoring programs, but we took the language of the bill and opened a school with it, and it's been so successful, it has spread across the valley and across the state, and the legislature has now passed laws twice, doubling down on that and saying that they encouraging the partnership, because it was founded on a partnership between a community college and the high school. The other area that the state of Texas is very good about is on dual enrollment. The state of Texas pays the college the state share, the full state share, and they pay us the full ADA. And so that develops a great opportunity for a partnership. What the college has to figure out, and what we have to figure out how to do between that, is how to come up with what the college would have gotten in tuition. And so the college, we find ways to do that, efficiently, effectively. We share building space with them. We cohort students. We get our teachers qualified to teach in the college, and all different kinds of ways of doing that. In 2007, we opened this unique school, we called it the College Career and Technology Academy, for young people between the ages of 18 and 26 who had not earned a high school diploma. And what we did is we partnered with a community college, used a dual enrollment approach. It's been very, very effective. Since 2007 to today, we've graduated 1,189 18 to 26-year-olds out of this. Across the valley, different districts have opened up similar campuses, and across the valley, close to 5,000 18 to 26-year-olds have gotten their high school diploma through similar programs. And for the first time, really, the valley in this region, dropout rate and high school graduation rate is now at a par with the state, after decades of always being a trailing or a lagging area.
And these are clean high school diplomas?
Yes, sir.
They're not GEDs?
These are not GEDs. These are high school diplomas. Most of ours actually graduate with not the very basic level, but what in Texas is called the recommended high school program, which means they get additional science and math and things like that. Out of those 1,189, almost 300 of them have been over the age of 21 already. 26-year-old, in all honesty, we've had a few 30-somes that walk in. We don't get funding for them, but they get in the chair, and we've had a few of those also get their high school diploma through that. And like I said, that's been so successful that the state legislature in 2011 passed Senate Bill 975 to scale that across the state and put the legislature stamp of approval on it. And this last session, Senate Bill 960, both by different valley senators, to allow technical schools to partner with with high schools on the same program. The other area that we're working on then is a district-wide scale-up on early college. I mentioned something at the beginning, that we have a commitment to get every student ready for college, connect every single student to college, and get every single student to complete college. And we're very serious about that. And our district has been designated as a demonstration site by the governor and the Commissioner of Education for College for All. And we use a lot of different ways of doing that. We have separate early college high schools. We opened our first early college high school in 2008. And it's had 2 graduating classes. 70% of the graduates have graduated with an associate degree. We're trying to scale that across our district in different ways. We have school within a school, early college high schools. We have the largest wall-to-wall early college high school in the state of 1,800 students. We use dual enrollment. We use back on track to college for our dropouts and our at-risk students and our alternative campuses. So what we're trying to do, which is a big struggle for us and for our community college, we're trying to connect every single student. We want every one of our students to start college work while they're in high school, whether it's towards a certificate, an associate degree, and then stack that on to bachelor's degree, advanced degrees, whatever they want. This year we graduated 82 students with associate degrees and 62 with certificates. This current year we're in, our expectation is about 300 associate degrees, about 300 certificates. Then we're continuing to scale from there. About almost half, over 900 of our 1,900 graduates this past year graduated with some college hours. And we're trying to scale it up there from there to go on. These are just some examples. So everything from, we've got students getting certificates from the community college in welding, and those are being picked up at $25 to $35 an hour with the oil industry and so forth. But to medical, engineer, this is an example of a young lady getting that's her college graduation, where she graduated from college 2 weeks before high school graduation. So that's my part. Thank you very much.
Colleagues and friends, neighbors, good morning. I do want to introduce my friends that joined me from Progreso, Mr. Cámara. He is one of our engineers at the high school. And Mr. Perez, who is one of, I was going to say one of the troubleshooters, the troubleshooter. And he's been shooting a lot there lately in Progreso. Well, let me start by saying that Progreso, we have a very simple goal. So everybody can remember, all students will graduate high school with a career certification and or an associate's degree. That's it. That's what we're there for, period. Of course, that's kind of difficult to do because, for one, we are the 3rd poorest district in the state. Out of 1,000+ school districts in the state of Texas, we are the 3rd poorest. So in Progreso, we have a scale that we added one more scale to it. It's poor, and we added misery to the scale. So that we are located right in the border. The border fence is right next to our students, to other houses. And as Mr. Loredo has explained about the poverty levels, it's a big obstacle in the education of our children and their motivation, so that this goal kind of counters this real situation of these children. Okay, a little bit about Progreso. Enrollment with a small district in the group, 2,154. We are growing. We used to be about 1,500 students. So in the past 5 years, we've grown about 700 students. 700 to 800 students. So if you're going to project that kind of growth, it'll get to 3,000 soon. And we're right in the border. We're right in the crossing point. Migrant, 18%. Limited English proficient students, 56%. On this one, I'd like to make a comment on the 56%. And as Dr. Kim mentioned, At the beginning of the school, in pre-K, K first, we have 98% limited English proficient children. You know, these statistics are overall, so some of these children exit the program. So basically, you can say that if you like to know how to teach a second language, you can come to Progreso, or you can come to the Valley. We know how to teach second languages with very little money. Special education, we have 5%. Low socioeconomic, 80%. Now, this is a kind of a iffy type of statistic because when we check on the low socioeconomic, some parents, they're ashamed to report their status and their income, because we ask for income at the cafeteria, we ask for their. And so many parents do not disclose their level. So 80% poverty really is not a true number. We're more in the 90s, 90 to 95. At risk, we have 71%. And if you look at the graduation rate, kind of, you know, I was looking at it and I called Victor this morning and I said, did you check the number? 100%. He said, are you sure? Is that what it says on the state report, ACE report? 100% graduation. Isn't that, I mean, it's like crazy. I mean,
I have visited every one of these school districts and have seen some fascinating things at every single one of them. And about 2 months ago, I had the privilege of going to the science and engineering program at Progreso, and I firsthand saw the robotics and the manufacturing and civil engineering. I spent a full morning there, and it was really something to watch. So, but there was one other thing we didn't touch on that maybe one of y'all could address, because over the last 7 or 8 months we've kind of talked about it, and it's unique to our border area, which is the security issues in the schools and some of the challenges that you face. And before I'd leave, maybe, I think Dr. Alejandro, we had spoken about that before. You could kind of touch on that, and if you all want to chime in.
Well, thank you very much for coming by and joining us and giving us an opportunity to give you a little glimpse of our valley. And as you can see by the presentation of each of the superintendents here, we all have a passion for our profession, and that is to educate every single one of our children. But we do have the barriers that are unique to our area, and one of the biggest things is the funding. Now, we have been dialoguing for a while in terms of, as one of the members, superintendents said, we're trying to regionalize these types of programs so that we can maximize their effectiveness. If we can bring it all together and say, you know what, we're doing something in technology, we're doing something in engineering, we're doing something in the whole child. If we can come together and share those ideas, then all of our students will benefit from it. So that's what we're trying to do, because that's, you know, those are the kind of innovative type of approaches that we need to do in order to be able to maximize the amount of funding as much as it's been cut. No Child Left Behind has put a real strain on us, because with this AYP, what it is they're causing additional funding cuts, in the sense that they're asking us to set aside SES funds at 20% of our Title I budget. So for a lot of us, that's a lot of money. That's an additional $2 million for us here in Weslaco. So that, together with the sequestration of $1 million, we're short $3 million to educate our students. So those are things that, you know, that we're confronted with. Now, one thing that we didn't touch on, and as Congressman Vela mentioned, is the safety and security of our students. You know, a lot of times there was a big push for the active shooter. What are we going to do if we get an active shooter? Well, the reality for us here in South Texas is not that we're threatened by an active shooter. We're more threatened by the drug cartel that is very fluid in the valley, all along the border, and Arizona has also got that same problem. Our biggest problem is that when they kind of shut down Florida, a lot of the trade came down through South Texas. And let me tell you, that's the other thing that's going to happen in South Texas. Because we have a port here in Brownsville, that's also going to make us a mecca for the trade zone. So that's also going to be an avenue. But right along with that, we're going to have a lot of drug traffic going through. We already have it. The biggest problem that we have is that a lot of the gangs that we have, and everybody's got gangs across the country. It's not unique only to South Texas, but a lot of the gangs that we have here have now become, instead of turf wars, are now becoming drug turf wars, okay? This is my area, this is where I'm gonna sell, this is where I'm gonna make my profit, don't mess with it, okay? And some of those kids are in our area. You know, sometimes it's people turn a blind eye because they don't want to see, but we actually have contract hits that are taking place here in the valley, okay? It's not unique to any other place. You know, we have them here in South Texas. And a lot of those are targeting the younger students or younger kids because, you know, they say, well, you know what, you have a better chance of getting off in case you get caught. So they go out with that mentality. So again, the only way we're going to change that is to start educating our students and start way back, okay, so that they have that glimmer of hope by seeing that little light at the end of the tunnel and saying, you know what, there's a better life for us. And again, every single one of the staff members here, because all of these are educators, every single one of them works extremely hard to try to make those changes. As Dr. Castillo said, a lot of times our staff works for free. They spend long hours because they are actually committed to being able to provide for our children. Something funny that happened, I got an email from a parent. They were complaining about parking because they were next to a school. And then the very last line says, and what are your teachers doing in school after 9 o'clock? I wonder what they're up to. So after I sent back the email, they're saying, you know, well, we'll address the parking issue and things like that. And I say, the last part of my email was, we have very dedicated teachers that go above and beyond and work free to try to provide inspiring lessons for each and every one of their students to be able to learn. So, you know, we have very committed staff members, and I wish that every one of them, of our staff members, was that committed. So I sent that back because that's exactly true. A lot of them, and especially central office, they work long hours, and again, it's for free because they're truly committed and they have a passion for this profession. Mr. Loredo showed you a house, substandard housing. Let me just leave you with this. There is no reason in the world, that the child that lives in that house cannot be one of our future presidents. Abraham Lincoln did it. From a log cabin to President of the United States, one of our kids in the Valley will eventually become President of the United States, and they more than likely will come from that kind of housing. But we need to give them every opportunity to be successful. We need to make sure that we keep them from the drugs, that we keep them from the gangs, and the answer is not going to be building bigger walls, higher walls, or things like that, or putting more soldiers or more Border Patrol. The answer is going to be, let's give them the resources that they need to be successful. And that's a good, solid education that will make them successful for the rest of their lives. Once again, I thank you very much for joining us. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask anyone on staff.
Well, thank all of you very much for being here with us today. The rain must have come from Arizona.
We don't have that.
It's been so dry here. I think we're all surprised that the day y'all arrived, we actually got rain and maybe some drought relief. But I think we ought to give a hand to our students for the great work they did. Yeah, this is the Wesco High School Culinary School, and I just think you guys have done a great job every time we've been here. We thank you all very much.
Incidentally, this used to be an elementary school, and this is a cafeteria, and everything that they've done is been remodeled by our own staff in the district, and they've gone out and gotten furniture that was left over and tables and things like that. About the only thing that we do have that is new is the state-of-the-art kitchen equipment that is in the kitchen area. But other than that, everything has been remodeled, and they've done an excellent job. And these are second-year students, and some of them are first-year students. So that is even more amazing that they're able to do this, you know, and they're just starting off. So once again, we want to congratulate them and thank them for providing this brunch for us this morning. Thank you.